The S&P 500 has erased $5 trillion worth of wealth in the last 13 days. I mean, yesterday, the only thing that wasn't down were energy and utility stocks. And it was probably because Donald Trump went on Fox News and hinted that there's going to be some short-term pain in the markets while he's looking to restore wealth in America.
You said, look, we're going to have a disruption, but we're okay with that. Is that what you meant? The stock market going down was the disruption? What other disruption were you alluding to?
Look, what I have to do is build a strong country. You can't really watch the stock market. If you look at China, they have a 100-year perspective. We have a quarter. We go by quarters.
That's true.
And you can't go by that. You have to do what's right. What we're doing is we're building a tremendous foundation for the future. Tremendous foundation. Everything's been taken away. We don't make ships anymore.
There's theories out there that Trump is tanking the markets on purpose, and I think that there's some truth to that. It's because the United States government is between a rock and a hard place. About half of their $36 trillion worth of debt matures in the next 3 years. Over $9 trillion of that debt matures in 2025. So with over $1 trillion expected to amount from interest payments alone this year, they need to refinance the debt. And the interest rates need to be much lower in order to avoid a fiscal crisis. So their only hope is to get rates to come down. And it appears to be working because over the last few weeks, there was projected to be 0 rate cuts in 2025. There's expected to be 3 rate cuts in 2025 at a 45% chance. And as of May is when they expect the first rate cut to happen. But this uncertainty is causing stocks to crash. Meta is the only one of the Magnificent Seven that is up this year. The other 6 are down, with Apple down over 9% and Tesla down almost 50%. Ouch. The market is expecting uncertainty. But the only thing that is certain as we move into this age of uncertainty in this new digital future is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a freedom virus that continues to spread.
I think the key thing to keep in mind right now is that Bitcoin is a commodity. It is an asset without an issuer. There is no company, no individual, no country, no entity that can corrupt it. It has reached escape velocity. It has gotten to the point where it is basically a freedom virus, a truth virus, a monetary virus. It has been embraced by $1 trillion of smart money. That is, $1 trillion of real money has been invested in the network. It is 99% of the digital power on Earth. It's fairly unstoppable. And so if you're going to capitalize a company or a country, you want to capitalize it on property or a commodity or a network which is beyond the point where anybody could change the nature of it. And so that makes Bitcoin the most certain thing in the digital universe.
Today, we're going to look at the importance of Bitcoin in a 100-year time frame. We're going to look at why it's a freedom virus and what it means for the world. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Let's go. People are so short-term focused. The only thing that they focus on is the price of Bitcoin. And if that's your measuring barometer, well, you're going to be in for a roller coaster all of the time. When you're only looking at the price of Bitcoin, you really miss what Bitcoin actually is, which is a freedom virus. But just to reset on fundamentally what Bitcoin is, I like to play this clip from Pierre Richard, who was presenting to the Texas Senate Committee about what Bitcoin actually is and why they should have it as a strategic reserve asset. Listen to the clip.
In 2020, I invented the concept of a government strategic Bitcoin reserve. Texas should acquire a strategic reserve to hedge against future uncertainty. While the state is currently blessed with a thriving economy, we must prepare for future downturns that could negatively impact tax receipts and existing state investments. Public trust in financial institutions has eroded due to a lack of transparency, but Bitcoin is a unique asset because it is fully auditable. The code is open source. The monetary policy can be independently verified by anyone using a normal computer. The Bitcoin software downloads the entire history of the ledger. Every transaction is checked to make sure that nobody is creating Bitcoin outside of the issuance schedule. And Bitcoin can only be issued through a competitive public mining process, unlike other cryptocurrencies such as Ethereum or XRP. Bitcoin is not dilutive, as there will always be fewer than 21 million Bitcoin, a finite scarcity. The average Bitcoin has been held longer than 2 years, and Bitcoin will continue to accrue long-term value. So now is the perfect time to make a strategic investment. Bitcoin software is engineered to maximize reliability through decentralization. There are no single points of failure. Thanks to this conservative approach to protocol development, Bitcoin continues to stand out as the digital gold of the 21st century.
Bitcoin is a freedom virus operating in the form of a network that is penetrating all facets of the world through its host, the internet.
If you look at power laws, Bitcoin, and viruses, three things, they have something in common, and it's a network effect. You can see how, in my mind, Bitcoin almost exhibits those, it co-shares that with virus-like behavior. And power laws are used to describe viruses, and they can describe them accurately too. So when I think of Bitcoin, I actually do think of it almost as a living organism that was in search of a host. And if you think about it deeper, you'll realize that, boy, what would be if I were a Bitcoin virus and I wanted to spread throughout the world, what would my host be? Well, it would be the internet.
The internet is its host, and like the internet, which was threatened to be banned in the late 90s and early 2000s, well, Bitcoin has democratized access to commerce, power, and freedom. The reason why the United States adopting Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset is not only important for the United States, but important for the world. In a great interview about a year ago that Alex Gladstein did with Peter McCormick, he lays out this idea that Bitcoin is a freedom technology that is bad for dictators and good for property rights and freedom everywhere, not just in America.
And when I first started at my organization at the Human Rights Foundation in 2007, we were actually smuggling outside information into Cuban underground libraries. People didn't have the internet, so they were watching like dubbed versions of V for Vendetta and stuff like that. It was awesome in terms of giving them a little bit of the outside world. Now, of course, they have more internet because the government was forced to make a decision. Do we impoverish the island forever and become like North Korea, or do we open up and try to survive a different way? So I think the same will ultimately be true for Bitcoin. Like, it'll ultimately be impossible to keep Bitcoin out of a country. So the governments are going to have to just figure out a way to deal with it. But ultimately, you just have to think long term. And I appreciate bringing up like, well, don't bad guys use Bitcoin. But let's think about this. Like, let's say you're China or Saudi Arabia or Russia, right? Let's say you're the dictator of one of these countries. What do you need to survive? You need censorship, confiscation, and closed capital markets. You cannot survive without these three things. Now, what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is free speech, property rights, and open capital markets. It's fundamentally opposed to the DNA of dictatorship. Now, it doesn't mean that there won't be autocrats in a Bitcoin standard, but it'll be a lot harder to do so because people will have the power to push back and to be financially free. And that's going to be very devastating for them. And here's the good news for Democrats, people who believe in democracy properly understood, meaning, a government that is sort of accountable to the people, is that, if you think about America, at least, the good part of America, the founding spirit of America, which is tremendous, is we are all about free speech, private property, and open capital markets. So, long term, when I say Bitcoin is bad for dictators, look, it's good for democracies. It's good for free and open societies because it actually delivers more power to the people. And I think it'll get rid of our worst impulses in democracies in terms of invisible spending on wars abroad and all this nonsense we fund and all this opacity at the state level and all these hidden taxes and all this inflation and, the military-industrial complex and all this corruption. Like, a lot of this stuff is because the money can be manipulated, right? If we're all on an equal playing ground, we're all using an open, neutral currency, a lot of this stuff is just not going to be possible.
That's why what's happening right now in D.C. at the Bitcoin Policy Institute is so important. It's why people like Matt Pines, Michael Saylor, Jack Mallers, and Cynthia Lummis are beating the table about the importance of the United States adopting Bitcoin at first and then spreading it all throughout the world. It's a much better opportunity for the United States to instill its democratic ideals and property rights to people all over the world than it has through coercion and by manipulating other governments and currencies, which it has been doing for the past 50 years.
Why it is a strategic asset, why it is freedom money, why it brings other countries into a system that allows individual freedom as well as freedom from governments that have hyperinflation or corruption. I mean, this asset is a game changer for the whole world.
I really believe this. If I didn't believe it, I wouldn't be doing this show. When you think about giving lower income people economic mobility and property rights, when you have people who are middle-class Americans, middle-class families that are college educated that can't afford homes, well, how do you expect someone who's lower income or someone from an impoverished nation with hyperinflating currencies to actually have property rights or actually own money that outpaces the money supply and money debasement? The simplest way isn't through some crazy reform. It's through giving them a job and then allowing them to buy Bitcoin with their excess discretionary money. But before we go any further on Bitcoin being a freedom virus, let's get to our sponsors. When it comes to owning property and not selling your property, one of the best ways to unlock liquidity in your Bitcoin without selling your Bitcoin is through a Bitcoin-backed loan through the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans, which is Ledn. Since 2018, Ledn has issued over $7 billion worth of loans to tens of thousands of customers and have never lost a single cent or single sat of customer dollars. They're the first digital lender to do a proof of reserves. One of the things that I do want to mention about Ledn, and since Bitcoin's price is crashing right now, is that you need to make sure that you have enough collateral in order to support your loan. It's a pretty simple loan process. It's over collateralized. If you want $5,000 in US dollars, you need to put up $10,000 worth of Bitcoin. When your loan to value ratio gets lopsided, then it requires more Bitcoin so that your loan isn't liquidated. But all of this is laid out for you in plain and simple terms when you fill out a loan with Ledn. The process takes about 2 minutes, and it's pretty easy to see what you owe, how much you're going to get, and at what rates. Go to ledn.ao/borrowing to get started with your lending process today. One of the most important things about Bitcoin is that it enables self-sovereignty and freedom. But the only way that you get self-sovereignty and freedom in Bitcoin is by taking self-custody of your Bitcoin and by removing the keys of your Bitcoin from third-party exchanges. One great way to do that and learn how to do it privately, securely, and confidently is through working with a partner like the Bitcoin Way. Members of their team will teach you exactly how to remove your Bitcoin from exchanges, remove your Bitcoin to a hardware wallet, keep your keys safe, and make sure that you're protecting your generational wealth the right way. Go to thebitcoinway.com and schedule a free 30-minute consultation with their team. Go to thebitcoinway.com/simplybitcoin to schedule a free 30-minute consultation with their team. That's thebitcoinway.com/simplybitcoin.
How do you fight, something which is so entrenched in the civilization that the harder you push, the harder it pushes back? And the answer is you have to introduce a new idea that will go viral. So, for example, Bitcoin, is a new idea. You could view it as freedom technology, a freedom virus. And you can also view it as a monetary virus to give sound money to the world. So if I want to give freedom and sovereignty and dignity and empowerment to 8 billion people, I don't loudly scream that their overlords ought to stop leaning on them. I'm not going to topple every government and every corporate overlord and everything. So what I do is I introduce a new technology that spreads virally. And if I want to give property rights to 8 billion people, I introduce a new technology. And when you introduce a new technology, there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. I think when you say, you're wrong, you're stupid, I'm smart, do it my way, change your way, right? The louder you say that, the harder someone pushes back against you.
That's like parenting.
You create inflammation.
Yeah.
Right? And there are examples in our political system where certain political parties, their position is the other party is wrong, we're right, they're stupid, we're smart, do it our way, and give us credit and blame them, right? And so that's an inflammatory approach. I think that you could spend $100 billion trying to jam your idea on someone that doesn't want it. They will just crowdsource $100 billion of power to push back, and that's called fighting a war. Right? You're just going to war. I think that the more elegant way is to introduce a new idea, Bitcoin. What is it good for? Oh, it'll be good for your family. What else? It'll be good for your company. What else? Oh, it'll help your bank. What else? It'll help your state. What else? It'll help your city. It'll help your country. What else? Well, you want to fight a war? It'll help you win the war. You disagree with X, it'll help your political party. You want to win an election, it'll help you win, right? What is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is good for you, right? Bitcoin is empowerment technology that will allow you to be the best version of yourself. Who's losing? Nobody's losing. Who's wrong? Nobody's wrong. Just everybody's just better with this. It's better living through technology.
When Bitcoin wins, who loses? Everyone can buy it. My growth doesn't come at your expense. When Bitcoin benefits me, it also benefits you if you choose to participate. It's a mutually beneficial system built on value that provides value to each new participant of the network, a true network effect. Sure, it'll have greater benefits to people who bought earlier, who had more conviction, more humility, and dropped their ego sooner to realize that Bitcoin is the best form of money and savings in the world. But is that a bad thing? And does that negatively impact you? In the midst of all of this uncertainty and with the swings in market prices, one thing that you need to understand about Bitcoin is that Bitcoin is a freedom virus and is the most certain thing in this digital future.
It seems sometimes like things are almost at a dead end. One of the beauties about Bitcoin is it gives you so much freedom. I mean, look at me today. I'm all in on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the royal flush. So when you understand that, you just take your chips, you put them on the table, and you're done. And you know what? That's what it's like. And now I don't have to sit there. I don't lay awake wondering about what the Fed's going to say next week. I don't give a shit what they do with the money supply. I don't worry about earnings reports, 10Ks, all the stuff that I used to study, all the macro stuff. I don't even do it now. I just relax and enjoy myself.
When you make investments into stocks, bonds, gold, or any other instrument, you're putting your faith in something or someone else that you can't verify. Bitcoin is the only digital property that usurps our institutions of trust, and it promotes a collective network that's built on integrity and sovereignty. This continues to spread throughout Congress, throughout the halls of power in the United States, throughout Senate floors, into companies and other things, and pretty soon this freedom virus is going to find its way to all parts of the world. If you believe in this future, and you believe in sovereignty and integrity and the freedom virus of Bitcoin, then I encourage you to come down to Dallas, Texas from April 3rd through April 6th to the BitBlockBoom conference, where you can hear some of your favorite speakers in Bitcoin, like me, Parker Lewis, Guy Swan, Marty Bent, Bob Burnett. And you get to learn about how do I buy my first Bitcoin? How do I remove Bitcoin from exchanges? How do I mine Bitcoin at home and potentially win a full block like someone from BitX just did? You'll get a chance to hang out with Bitcoiners in real life, to make human connections to this digital network at things like the Saturday Casino Night and other parties that will be happening around Dallas. Get $100 off your all-inclusive ticket by going to bitblockboom.com and entering the promo code BBB25. That's bitblockboom.com and entering the promo code BBB25. If you believe that Bitcoin is a freedom virus that is infiltrating all parts of the world and you want to see this good thing that's happening right here in the United States first spread everywhere, then I encourage you to continue to share these videos, like and subscribe to the channels. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Happy stacking.